Everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Critters, where I live stream every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on topics of um, hello snow on topics of animal behavior change, training, and enrichment. Sometimes we have guests on, and when we do, I will send out a notice to pay attention to a possible time change. You will see at the very end of this live stream, I'm announcing a special guest coming on at a different time on a Sunday on a topic that pretty much got me into the field of this field of work that I do. And anyways, I've got a lot for you today, but mostly it's going to be addressing your animal behavior training and enrichment questions. For those that are new, good morning. My name is Lara Joseph. I am owner of the Animal Behavior Center. We're an international educational center where we teach people all over the world how to empower animals and the people that care for them. We do that through showing people how to understand the use of applied behavior analysis and positive reinforcement training with animals. And I show a wide variety of work that I do. I show the work that I do with a wide variety of animals. I'm writing a blog post on this right now. I've been up since 3:30 this morning because hopefully everybody's staying warm here in the Midwest. It is our coldest day of the year. I don't even know what our wind chill factor is today, but I believe our high temp today is 2. And we have 50-mile-an-hour gust winds, which is why I'm wearing one of my favorite fleeces zipped up around my neck. I will be out this afternoon working with my wolves in this weather, and I'm excited. So good morning, everybody. Get your questions ready. Sharice, I will see you in about 2 weeks. We're seeing a lot of people in about 2 weeks. I even have, well, I don't have them, but I've got a couple other people from Ohio that are flying down to the Parrot Festival happening in Houston, Texas this year. It's their 25th anniversary, and they've asked me to speak on their 25th anniversary. So I accepted, and I will be in Houston in 2 weeks. And I believe my presentation, I can't remember if it's on a Friday. I think that's January 26th. So I hope to see you guys, a lot of you guys there. I will be live streaming Coffee with the Critters from there. So let's go ahead. If you guys have questions, go ahead and get them prepared while I run through my little spiel this morning. So if you want to understand more about what we do and the services we offer, you can go to our website, theanimalbehaviorcenter.com, where you will find our services, our memberships, all the events, and that the post for the upcoming guest is on the events for Coffee with the Critters. We have all our workshops on there, different place I'll be presenting. I was just asked last week to present somewhere else this week or this year, and I'm extremely excited to see. I mean, live streaming is great, but there's nothing that beats in-person interaction, talking, so I can see you as well in these workshops and these presentations. So you will also find, like I said, there's our events on our website. You can also find them on our Facebook page, and we live stream to YouTube and Facebook now. And also, hopefully, are you guys getting the emails that I send out every Saturday? I start working on those midweek, and I'm starting to add in training tips, videos for you guys to get you guys thinking. And so, good morning, Therese. Good morning, Sherry, Shelly, Heather, Beth, Ray, Iris. Hey, Iris. I just saw something come through from you yesterday. And Stephanie, and Susan, and Tim, Eva, Good morning, everybody. So, just a couple of things that we're working on this week. It's really cold outside, so I have been training the wolves and getting them prepared, and it's paying off. Um, Getting them prepared for anything voluntary. Therese, do you mind deleting those comments, that spam that just popped up, if you can do that? Sorry about that, guys. Anyways, so I'm trying to get to this today. I am training actually 5 different lemurs to start taking voluntary injections and inspections on, thanks, Trace, and inspections for the veterinary exam. And it's I've got to get creative with this because lemurs are really jumpy. They're prey animals. They can be fearful. So I'm working with these 3 particular red ruffs. That's red on the right. The 2 on the left are young and fairly new to me. So I'm working on through with off contact training, protective contact training, and it just turned to full contact training. So I'm in their enclosure. I'm getting things prepared. Hopefully today, start crate training. Already started nose targets, hand targets, but we've got to get them ready for injections. And I want this to go as stress-free as possible. So I'm pretty excited about this. And here's something I'm super excited about, but I would be, is Bruce, the American alligator. We have at the Center for Training. Those of you in our online advanced animal behavior training group have seen the live streams that I'm doing every day with Bruce to, number 1, teach him a recall. Number 2, teach him a nose target. Number 3, we are now teaching him to open his mouth on cue. And we're doing that through target training. And I can't tell you how important target training is. Because whether you realize it or not, you're probably already target training, and you would have read this in our post, in our email newsletter that we just sent out yesterday. So why would I want an alligator to open its mouth on cue? I know this from the 2 bigger alligators that I train, American alligators, Elvis and Priscilla. In order to feed them accurately for training, you've got to get in close proximity. And I was doing that. I started that through off contact and protective contact. I'm pretty much no contact with the alligators. But once you get that close, I'm delivering food reinforcers off of tongs that are only about this long. And with the head of an alligator that's about that big, getting this close, you realize you want more distance. I do. I'm just more comfortable with that. So I don't want to put my hands that close. So I teach them to come to me, stop right in front of me, and I'm now in their enclosure with them, all 3 of them. And if I can get them to open their mouth on cue, instead of delivering food with tongs, I can just toss it right in their mouth. That's the importance of, and another important thing is, we've struggled with Bruce a little bit this winter, and it is because he wasn't eating as much as we need to in order to train with him, because he's teaching us as well. So we did a couple of different environmental modifications, raised the temperature. We stuck a heater in his water, and we now have a digital readout of what the water temp is. And when the water temp gets 71 and above, he starts getting more active. So now when he sees us, we've gone from feeding him 13 grams of food every couple of days to now we're at 65 grams a day. And we know he's going to grow. He's not quite doubled in size from last winter. So we're already preparing his pool and his enclosure for next winter. We're deciding on where at the center that's going to be. And there's a couple different locations we're discussing. One I'm pretty excited about. But and this is a picture, hey, Rachel, hey, Pat, Maggie, Catherine, when he sees us walk into his enclosure, he knows one of two times we come into his enclosure is one, either to clean his enclosure or two, to feed him. So when he sees us and he clearly recognizes the difference between people and clearly recognizes our voice and can tell when there's more than one person in his enclosure. I accidentally found that out last week. I was like, not even thinking about it. Rachel and I walked in together and Bruce just slowly started backing up. So we accidentally positively punished his behavior of coming towards us. So we both got out immediately, and we do make mistakes. We just make sure when we make mistakes that we learn from them. We try not to make mistakes, but they happen, and you don't know it's going to happen until you see it happen. The importance is, note to self, don't do this again. How are we going to do better next time? So I see we've got a question. I'm going to get to your question. So Rachel was saying the other day, when she opens his enclosure, he quickly turns around and comes up to the edge of this pool. So I showed her, I was like, he's target trained now, so watch this. And what I've been doing is I've changed my mind on this, but I've been targeting his 2 front feet to the edge of that pool and teaching him right there. When you put your 2 feet up there, that's when the training begins. But what it's causing him to do is arch his back and touch the target by jumping at it. We don't want him doing that, so we lower the target, wait for him to start. Oh, he's opening his mouth on cue, and he caught it. He caught on to that. My first training session with him last week, and it was a beautiful thing. So with that being said, I believe, I got a couple more things, and then I'm going to get to your question. If you saw on our Facebook page, we posted last week. I'm really big into, believe it or not, trying to stay organized. So I was going through our enrichment room, organizing things to make it a lot easier for the volunteers just to come through and grab what they want to be able to make enrichment quickly for whatever species of animal they're working with. So our zip ties are in this container, and it's all different sizes, and it's harder to find the size we want. So I just went through what we had at the center. We do our own microgreens and sprouts. So I found a little sprouting container, and then we use these tubes. These are thicker cardboard tubes. Hi, Snow. For enrichment for our lemurs and for our birds. And I've got another idea for another animal, but I just cut them to varying sizes of the zip ties and stuck the zip ties in them. Bam, organized. So when things are organized, it just brings my stress level down. So anyways, I'm going to start adding little tips like that into our newsletter as well. And speaking of enrichment, I have to make mention of this really quick. Our parrot enrichment workshop is coming up, and it is half sold out. It is in April. So if you're interested in getting in on this parrot enrichment workshop, better do it quick. So We do have a question. Any idea why a golden retriever, 2 years old, will pull clumps of hair out of his back, the back of his brother, a black lab who is 1? He does it during play and sometimes while instead laying down. A couple different things, and I know we have some dog trainers on here, so if you want to jump in, feel free. Tim says, is it for attention? Yeah, I guess I would want to say if we're addressing a behavior issue, which this sounds like it is, I would ask you 2 questions. Find out what is happening right before the behavior happens, and see if you can start identifying the antecedent, which is the cue that it's getting ready to happen. Is it when they're in close proximity? Is it contextual? When it happens, find out what else is going on in the environment that is triggering that behavior to happen. And then the second, that's when you're going to be able to see what I want to do when I'm trying to identify a behavior. I know I have a behavior issue, but I don't know why it's happening. I find out what happens right before it. An environmental issue, an environmental event is the sound, anything in the environment. Like right now, environmental events are I've got snow walking around the table. That's an environmental event. Anything that's happening in the environment at that time. Not just, is that a coincidence that happened at that time, or are there subtle little things that are happening that are triggering these behaviors to happen? The second thing I would want to ask you is, what do you want your dog to do instead? Because, and I wouldn't wait and see if this just works itself out, because that's called a history of reinforcement. You can have history of reinforcement for desired and undesired behaviors. The longer a behavior happens, that's the amount of time a behavior happens, that's the history of reinforcement. And the longer the behavior happens, the stronger it gets, and usually the longer it's going to take you to change. When I see a potential behavior issue, like small red flag, I'm like, what was that? I don't know what that was. Is this going to be a concern? Then I'll start paying close attention to it until I understand what it means. And sometimes I'll go ahead and intervene and redirect the behavior so it doesn't become a behavior issue at all. Because if it happens once, the behavior has happened. If it happens twice, now it's being reinforced. What is reinforcing this behavior? Is it something your other dog is doing? And you want to jump in and change behavior concerns as soon as possible. Don't wait for them to keep happening, because what I try to do is prevent behavior issues from even happening at all. Even when I'm training, I can say, ooh, I can see where a potential behavior issue would arise here. What happens after a behavior issue already starts happening is now you have to counter condition, meaning retrain. And the dog already knows this behavior, whether it's desirable or undesirable to us, it's happening because it's bringing a desirable consequence for that particular animal. And just because it's an undesirable behavior that we see, it's serving a purpose for that animal. Once the animal learns it brings a desired consequence to that animal, the animal's already learned it. Okay. And the longer it happens, say it's been happening for 2 months, and then I step in or you step in to counter condition, what the pitfall of this is waiting a period of time before you start modifying it is you can redirect it. You can change this behavior. The problem you want to avoid is if the alternate behavior no longer brings reinforcement, the dog is likely to revert back to this behavior because he's already learned it's brought a desirable consequence. Does that make sense? It does not mean you cannot change this behavior and keep it changed for a long period of time. There are some animals in our care that have such a long history of reinforcement of an undesirable behavior before we even could get to it or see the animal, that the undesirable behaviors still happen. What we do is put them on management. So what we watch for is what we watch for are distant antecedents, meaning subtle cues that this behavior might start happening again if we don't start intervening soon. It may not happen for another 2 weeks, but all these subtle behaviors are starting to line up and happen again that were antecedents of the undesired behavior, um, such as abnormal repetitive behaviors. Does anybody else have any questions? Um, Such as abnormal repetitive behaviors. I find a lot of abnormal repetitive behaviors are on like a maintenance plan, where we're never going to be able to fully extinguish this behavior, but we can change it and we can keep it changed while consistently watching for those distant antecedents because we know without intervention they're likely to come again. And abnormal repetitive behaviors can happen for a lot of different reasons. Some people call them stereotypical behaviors. I like to focus, but not only on, but I like to focus on abnormal repetitive behaviors with animals because the key point behind why I do what I do is the topic of our last podcast in our online memberships on animal welfare. The focus of all of my work is on animal welfare, and increasing the quality of life for these animals to make sure every animal under my care or that under the care of a team I'm helping train, making sure those animals are just thriving to their fullest potential. You will see this in a lot of the animals that I have at the Animal Behavior Center. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I'm going to say 99% of the animals we have at the Animal Behavior Center have come to us and are permanent residents now from situations where they either couldn't get adopted or they were losing their homes or there was euthanasia was going to happen. And we'll pull that animal in, train it, live stream our work on changing behaviors. And a lot of those animals have become residents of the Animal Behavior Center. And some move on and some stay. But every animal under my care, if somebody can prove to me that they can take better care of this animal than what I can, and I'm not the one that determines this, it's the quality of the life of the animal that determines this, then that animal moves on. No matter how much I love the animal or not. Everybody knows Rico is the love of my life. But if somebody could prove to me they could make him thrive more than I can and provide a better environment, it would be selfish for me not to let that animal go. But good luck. Good luck on that one. So what I do is take the bar and compare my work to Mother Nature. I will never match her or even come close, but that is my goal, to not stop trying doing the best of the best that I can possibly do for these animals. We do have another question from Danielle. I recently adopted a scarlet macaw. She bites her upper foot, so she's going like this, and is missing the feathers. Oh, probably up here, right where the feathers come down to the joint of the ankle. She bites her upper foot and is missing the feathers there. What can I do besides ignoring the behavior to help her redirect her stress and frustration? That is a fabulous question, Danielle. You bring up a few key points that I want to share with you. Um, so, and in my memberships, I do talk, my online services, I do talk about this. The best way that I have found to change behavior is called differential reinforcement. It involves 2 schedules of reinforcement, okay? Not just one. Um, and this is key on what you're asking me. Differential reinforcement involves extinguishing, which means ignoring a behavior, which means this behavior, the one you're trying to change, is reinforced 0% of the times. That's harder than what it sounds. But I highly suggest to everybody, do not use extinction alone. Extinction is also known as ignoring and not delivering a reinforcer for that behavior. So I do not suggest using ignoring, aka extinction alone, because that behavior serves a purpose for the animal. It does have a history of reinforcement, or the behavior wouldn't exist. So when we ignore a behavior, are you ignoring it? If the behavior continues to happen, it means reinforcement is still being delivered. I don't use extinction alone because it can cause the undesired behavior to skyrocket. Because the animal has learned this has brought reinforcement in the past. Why is it not continuing to bring reinforcement, and can actually make the behavior, the undesired behavior, increase? So what you want to do is accurately identify the reinforcer. What is it? Is it attention? If it is attention, what kind of attention? Is it you looking at the bird? Is it you vocalizing to the bird? Is it you going up to the cage and telling the bird to stop doing that? Because those are all forms of attention. Is it your proximity to the bird? Is there a stressor in the environment causing this to happen? So you want to first identify positive reinforcers, the bird's positive reinforcers, to be able to change this behavior, because you're going to need positive reinforcers. It's one of the things you need to change the behavior. Positive reinforcers are not always food. So there is a positive reinforcer happening with that behavior, which is why the behavior is, or a negative reinforcer is happening in the first place. So identify positive reinforcers that you can use to change the behavior. You're going to use differential reinforcement, which I said involves 2 schedules of reinforcement. One is extinction. The second is one or more other behaviors that you want to deliver a positive reinforcer to change the behavior. Okay. So use extinction. Do not deliver a reinforcer for that undesired behavior. And then use differential reinforcer, you're using differential reinforcer. Identify any other behaviors that you want the bird to do instead, which could be ringing a bell, saying hello, interacting with a foraging toy. And it doesn't have to be just one other thing. It can be numerous other things. So a lot of times when I'm trying to change the behavior of screaming, I will identify the reinforcer behind the screaming, and then what do I want the bird to do instead? So if it's yodeling, saying hello, ringing a bell, I'll deliver the reinforcer for all those other behaviors. And thanks, Lisa. Both Sylvia and Shelley mentioned rule out medical issues. I should have said that in the beginning. The reason I didn't, because it immediately made me think of Rocky, because Rocky will do the same thing. Murray used to do the same thing. And it's a stressor with both of them. It was a behavior stressor in the environment. So with that being said, we're already at a half an hour. Boy, this flies. With that being said, I have got a couple of important announcements to make. And all the way through to the end of this live stream. If you like the work that you see that I do every Sunday morning and the information, I forgot to put in here my services, but it's on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page or website. We also have numerous different workshops throughout the year. We've got 2 already scheduled, which I showed earlier. And if the parrot enrichment workshop is coming up and the other one is sold out every year, this is not just for people that have birds. This was actually intended for dog trainers and people training numerous different species of birds or animals to learn the subtleties of training the use of applied behavior analysis with animals through working with birds, but not only birds. That is our Understanding Behavior Through Working with Birds workshop that will be in May. Our Parrot Enrichment workshop is in April. We have different workshops as well. We also have people booking for a day with the trainer, which means you are coming in with me, standing by my side, and it can be one person. But if it's more than one person, they have to be from the same organization or within the same group or on the same level. You come work with me for a day, 2 days, 3 days. I listen to your concerns and then I take you out with me, and we are working with numerous different species of animals, focusing on what I need to train this animal to do and helping you with your training and behavior at home as well. Something else we have coming up on February 11th, Coffee with the Critters will be at 4 p.m. I put that in yesterday's newsletter. We will be live streaming with Sabrina and Garrett, who I've been listening to for a couple of years. Their podcast is 9 years old. And I am a paleo nerd. That is how I got into birds, was through my fascination and love of dinosaurs. Oh, thanks, Sylvia. Danielle says, wish I wasn't so far away from you all. Sylvia says, some people fly in for this workshop. Yeah, we have people, most of the people fly in for this workshop, for these workshops. So rarely are anybody close. So February 11th, we'll be live streaming with Sabrina and Garrett, and we are emailing back and forth right now to narrow down a topic. And I have one that I'm thinking about, but, and I just asked her yesterday, I was like, I want to hear so much from you. So maybe we schedule her a second time. So note to self, February 11th, 4:00. I'm working on somebody else right now who is in Brazil. Who is coming on to live stream with me with Coffee with the Critters. Something else I wanted to mention, I'll be at the NPRPF Parrot Festival in Houston, Texas in 2 weeks. What else have I not mentioned? We just added a new product to our website that is available to the public. This is polyrope that we use for a lot of different enrichment. It is one of the only types of rope we will ever use, and this is hollowed out centered polyrope for animals for enrichment for numerous different reasons, but primarily safety reasons. And if you are a member of the Parrot Project, I should actually open this up to level 1, and the Foundation's membership and the Advanced too. You get exclusive discounts on the polyrope. Whew. With that being said, hey, good morning, Shelley. With that being said, I got to run because I got to get to some wolves and I've got some lemur training to do today. So I will see you next Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern for another episode of Coffee with the Critters. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend and stay warm.